Hello and welcome to Uncensored Conservatism, episode 285. Going to go around the United States and look at some news that may or may not have made the headlines. And let's start here in Michigan, where Trump's recent travel ban from countries mainly in Africa and the Middle East is leading to some consternation by Michigan's large and growing Muslim and Arab population. In Dearborn, nearly half of the population is 110,000 Arab. They're feeling that they've been misled by the Trump administration. More than 1,000 people showed up at a Minneapolis neighborhood to celebrate the annual sharpening of a large number 2 pencil. The pencil was sculpted out of a large oak tree previously damaged in the storm. People even came dressed as pencils and erasers, and you gotta love it in the land of Timmy Waltz. Ohio voters approved reauthorization of a $2.5 billion infrastructure improvement bond issue earlier last month. The money is estimated to create 35,000 construction jobs in the state. A government watchdog group has filed a lawsuit in Wisconsin seeking to prevent Elon Musk from ever offering money to voters in that state ever again. Musk presented 3 checks worth $1 million to 3 lucky voters. Unfortunately for Musk, his preferred candidate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court lost by about 10 points. Incidentally, both sides spent $100 million, making it the most expensive court race in U.S. history. And just that, proving that skiing is a stupid sport. Nicholas Vizzini lost his life while skiing down Alaska's Mount McKinley. It seems he and his snowboarding buddy triggered an avalanche. Vizzini is the second skier to die on North America's tallest peak this year. Play stupid games, or in this case, a stupid sport, you're going to win a stupid prize. Darwinian evolution, folks. And of course, the big news out of California are the anti-ICE riots, mostly peaceful protests occurring in Los Angeles. Trump called in 2,000 National Guard and 600 or so Marines to protect federal law enforcement and buildings. Stores are looted, cars set on fire, but it's just mostly a peaceful protest. In Hawaii, Mount Kilauea erupted for the 25th time since Christmas. Some eruptions spewed lava 350 feet into the air. When will Hawaii learn that the volcano gods are angry because they continuously elect batshit crazy idiots to the Senate? Just a piece of gods and throw this dipshit into the volcano already. A wildfire in Oregon forced the closure of 20 miles of an interstate highway in Columbia River Gorge and forced the evacuation of hundreds of homes in the region. It's wildfire season, but Governor Tina Kotek, an avid rug muncher, will soon be declaring it the result of climate change. Mark my words. Senator Richard Blumenthal, whose face looks like it was in a fire and put out by a pickaxe, waded in on the LA riots, claiming the Marines are not equipped to deal with crowd control. He, you may remember, lied about his military service in a classic case of stolen valor for the Connecticut senator. Incidentally, the Marines guard all our foreign embassies and places way more violent than Los Angeles. A fact lost on Senator dipshit here. Well, the bad news is that Trump deranged, weird-looking Maine guy Stephen King is still alive. The good news for Maine is that he doesn't live there anymore. Ksenia Petrova, a Russian national and Harvard researcher, was released from detention after she was caught trying to smuggle micro-sliced samples of frog embryos from France into the country. Ms. Petrova will appear in court later this year, although she is uncommitted as to whether she wants to remain in the country. Frozen frog embryos, what's next? Trump administration wants to be dropped from a lawsuit brought by 2 dudes who think they're girls in New Hampshire. The lawsuit seeks to allow them to compete as females in sports. The Trump administration argues they were added as a defendant simply because these confused little boys want to make a statement, and there has been no federal enforcement to date, and likely won't be. Unfortunately, Rhode Island, you're stuck with the ultimate dickhead. In Shelton Whitehouse, your senator. And, well, kind of forgive you, Vermont, for sending this failed communist back to the Senate because, Vermont, you're just fucking weird. The Satanic Temple in Iowa has filed a lawsuit against the state for their refusal to allow the Satanist a holiday display this upcoming Christmas in the state capitol building, because nothing says celebrating the birth of Christ better than a statue of Satan surrounded by black candles and a pentagram. And this is how you do it, folks. ICE officials in Omaha, Nebraska raided a meatpacking plant and hauled off a bus of alleged illegal alien workers. The owners were stunned since they use E-Verify for employment purposes. Okay, great. Then you're off the hook as the employer. But did they ever hear of identity theft? Regardless, I guess they'll be more careful in hiring in the future. All right, Patrick Stewart of North Dakota was arrested after he broke into the Fort Union Trading Post National Historic Site. That's not the worst of his worries. He's also been indicted on threatening to kill former President Obama. Okay, that's one less nut on the streets. Oklahoma executed John Fitzgerald Hansen for kidnapping and killing a Tulsa woman in 1999. Hansen was serving a sentence on federal charges when he was transferred to Oklahoma prison authorities earlier this year. So that's one person who slipped through Biden's pardon auto pen. South Dakota is facing a dilemma as they crack down on crime in the state. It seems that they will have to spend about $2 billion over the next decade to expand or build new prisons. Just execute the murderers and keep the rapists in jail. What's the problem here? Arizona governor, a Democrat, recently vetoed a bill that would have prohibited anti-Semitic thought in any public school at any level, declaring it was not a law about anti-Semitism but designed to punish teachers. Instead, if there is anti-Semitism, it can be reported to the State Board of Education, she said, and they will likely table it and do nothing. So for now, Arizona teachers, go ahead and teach some anti-Semitism while you can. All right, I'm told that this guy, Kabi Laim, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the biggest influencer on TikTok with over 1.5 million followers. Problem is, he was in Las Vegas and detained by ICE because he overstayed his visa to be in the United States. That's the definition of being here illegally. The dope was allowed to leave of his own accord and hopefully stay in Italy or Senegal or whatever this moron calls home. In Alabama, Walker County Sheriff Nick Smith has been indicted on state charges of hiring armed school resource officers, jail guards, and a deputy without any training or certification. Smith's legal problems keep mounting after the death of a county inmate in 2023 who died of hypothermia, for which he's being sued. Speaking of suits, 7 families in Arkansas with the backing of the ACLU have filed a lawsuit against the public display of 10 Commandments in classrooms and libraries throughout the state. Now, some of the families are Jewish, and I always thought that the 10 Commandments were handed to this dude named Moses, who is like the founder of Judaism. But anyway, do these plaintiffs really have a problem with thou shalt not kill? Come on. Great news out of Florida, where Dilly Dally was released back into the sea after having their flipper amputated. The loggerhead turtle was rescued and operated on by turtle rescue people in Juno Beach. Unfortunately, Dilly Dally will have to wear a satellite tracking device for the rest of its life, making it the laughingstock of the loggerhead sea turtle community. The Georgia Supreme Court upheld only one of 7 challenges to recent decisions of their state election boards, and 2 were referred back to the lower courts for further review. Essentially, they argue the board overstepped their authority when formulating the regulations. Louisiana passed a law that would hold out-of-state doctors who prescribe or facilitate the use of abortion drugs to patients to criminal and civil sanctions. Idaho, Oklahoma, and Texas have adopted similar measures. Mississippi Agriculture Commissioner Andy Gibson and that big old hat have thrown his hat into the gubernatorial ring for the Republicans. This is expected to be a highly contentious race on the GOP side, with several state government heavyweights also considering a run. A burglary suspect in South Carolina led police on a 90-minute chase. The suspect was driving an excavator that traveled at the amazing speed of 3 miles per hour, tops. The suspect was caught when the excavator got trapped in mud, and he fled on foot but was caught. Vice President Vance made an unannounced trip to Montana and the ranch of Rupert Murdoch and Dillon, about 70 miles south of Butte near Yellowstone Park. No reason was given for the visit. The Utah Supreme Court ruled that Ralph Leroy Menzies, I guess I'm pronouncing that right, age 67, is mentally competent to be executed. Although suffering from dementia now, he was convicted and sentenced to death in 1988 for the killing of a mother of 3 children when he obviously did not suffer from dementia 37 years ago. Anyway, in a classic case of fuck around and find out, a 30-year-old man from Randolph, New Jersey, became the second visitor to Yellowstone this year to be gored by a bison. It seems this cretin decided to test his luck and got too close to the animal. If the bison can gore you, you are likely too close. I mean, what the fuck is the matter with people? Just let the buffalo roam, okay? In Delaware, that's a man. Maryland, you're not really boring, but you're just boring this past week. The votes are counted in New Jersey's gubernatorial primaries, and the winners are Mikey Sherrill, shown there on the right, and for the Democrats, and Jack Ciattarelli on the left for the Republicans, as expected. Also, as expected in November, the next governor to replace squirrel-face Phil Murphy will be Mikey Sherrill because it is New Jersey and she is a Democrat. Incidentally, NJEA President Sean Spiller, who thought he really had a chance, finished dead last for the Democrats. All right, this is Nicole Daedone, the founder of One Taste Incorporated, after she was found guilty of several counts of forced labor in a Brooklyn courtroom. Taking advantage of women who experienced sexual trauma, they were forced into sex acts they found objectionable with clients. Daedone called it orgasmic meditation. Oh my God, where are you, Harvey Weinstein? Come on. Lawmakers in the Pennsylvania House advanced a bill that would make it easier for victims of childhood sex abuse to file lawsuits long after the current statute of limitations. The law now heads to the state Senate for consideration. Democratic State Senator Deborah Webb, who represents a rural district in Kentucky, announced that she is switching parties and will join the Republicans. She said the recent leftward lurch of the Democrats convinced her to switch parties, and she is the longest-serving Democrat in a rural district in the state. Archaeologists digging near what they thought was a Revolutionary War-era gunpowder storage depot were surprised when they discovered a partial skull and the skeletons of bodies with amputated limbs near Williamsburg, Virginia. It appears the dead are the remains of Confederate soldiers buried there. The Greycoats maintained a hospital nearby during the Civil War. And finally, in some good news, Ed, a pet zebra in Tennessee, was captured in the central part of that state after being reported missing by his owner. Ed had been on the loose for several days and even caused the closure of the road. But the striped horse managed to escape into a wooded area. He was safely captured and airlifted to animal control people. And that's it. Have a great day and a more pleasant tomorrow.